and then I'll introduce you. Okay. All right, everybody. Let me introduce you. I'm going to stop sharing briefly so I can see your face. Okay. This is Jake Villars. He is in construction management. He's from Washington State, and I will let him tell you the rest about you. We're going to have a little slideshow so that he can talk, and we'll have his picture in the corner. And if you have questions, you can unmute or you can just type it in the chat, whatever works for you. So now I will start over sharing again. Okay, here we go. And then I'm just going to put speaker view thing so it's only you they see. Okay, there we go.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name's Jake Villars. I currently work in construction management here in Seattle, Washington. A little bit about my background. I went to Washington State University, where I started out going for mechanical engineering and then realigned my goals and ended up switching to construction management, which I still think was one of the best decisions I've made. I'm really happy with what I'm doing. While I was at school, I learned a lot about the construction process, from basically going from nothing to a real professional career where I'm at now. I did extracurricular activities where we did a construction management competition down in Reno, where we placed a lot of schools. I think there's probably about 1,500 students there. I know there's a lot of California competition who goes there, so I know you guys have great construction management programs down there. While I was in school, I did internships for 2 summers towards the end of my stint there for a company called Excel Pacific. And then where I work currently is a company called Venture General Contracting. So I currently am a project engineer, which I got this job title from my internship for Excel Pacific. I ended up on my last day, they offered me a full-time position, being that I graduate from school, which I did, thankfully. And I took the next summer off and then started with them in August. I worked for them for about a year, and then I ended up switching over, following one of my mentors to Venture, which I've had a good time here as well. Being in construction, I know there's just a lot to take in. There's a lot to know about, but essentially, these buildings that we're building in the Seattle area, the process starts with an owner with an idea in their head and a lot of money in their pocket. And we call them napkin sketches, where they say, hey, we want this building built. They give that napkin sketch to an owner or an architect, who takes the idea, puts it on paper or blueprints, and then they take those blueprints and give it to us as a contractor who then puts a price to it and then defers all that or divides all of that work up on those plans to subcontractors. So where I'm at in the industry is basically a glorified middleman, but we facilitate, all of this projects where we could have hundreds of people there on a day, and basically control and take on all of that risk that comes in with a larger aspect of a project. We could have hundreds of people on a project in a day, or we could have 15 or 20. So as a project engineer, when I was first got out of school, one thing to know is that your entry level project engineer, you could wind up in a multitude of places, that being on the field side, coordinating with subcontractors on a project. My first project, when I got out of school, they sent me to this project that was falling behind a little bit, so they needed a little extra help. So they sent me out there to be another PE. So there was 2 of us to help, catch things up, coordinate with issues that were coming out of this project and issues that were needed to be solved, and we just didn't have the manpower. So I ended up starting in the middle of a project and closing that one down. And where I'm working at currently is at the beginning of a project before it starts. So I'm currently estimating, where we are in the building hasn't started, or we call it pre-construction. And I'm taking all of these plans, and thankfully I have a whole team, because these plans are about 850 pages. So there's a lot of work, and we are taking those and calling up subcontractors who are the professionals, who are the guys who are going to be in the field and installing it, and making sure that they know what they're putting in and giving us a price for. So then we can give it to, we call it a guaranteed price to the owner, and then they can get their financing and sign off and give that to us. So currently, in pre-construction, I'm in the office a lot. When COVID hit, thankfully, a lot of my work was online or on the computer, so I didn't have to worry about going to the site. I was able to work from home for a few months, and then we recently have been coming back into the office with certain protocols, masks, and social distancing. That being said, COVID hit the field a little different when projects that are ongoing right now got hit with a lot of more intense COVID protocols. So everybody had to wear masks and face shields. You have to come in every morning and check in, write your name down, get your temperature checked. Everybody has to stay more than 6 feet apart. You can only have so many people, in a room. So all that did for our projects on site was kind of help reduce productivity if you can't get more people in and out, finishing their job as fast. But that's, one thing that's exciting about this work is it's always changing. There's always more obstacles to overcome, and working with your team to get those answers is, I think, one of the more exciting parts of my job set. One thing that's really cool as a project engineer is you come in, you help facilitate between, the owner, the architect, and the subcontractor. So you get to meet so many people at so many different levels. Even though I'm a younger, in my career, I still talk to, the owner who has the bottom say and makes the decisions on what's going to happen to this building, or what, things that we can change or save money on. So currently in my position, as we call them, we're estimating this new job. It's a 31-story tower in South Lake Union, Seattle. That is going to be all apartment complexes. It's right downtown, right next to the Amazon buildings and Google buildings. So that's where all of the high market in apartments are going to be. One thing I love about my job is that, as we're building this and all the hard work it takes into preparing for it, when you're able to turn around at the end of the day and see, like, hey, I helped build that building, I helped make a part of Seattle, but this is my town, it could be yours, or, it basically feels like you're putting a little bit of history, into the place where you work, you live, and, you grow up and spend a lot of time. It's really exciting to work with, the people you do. It's a very team oriented project. So, when things get tough, and as things do, it's nice to know that your team has your back, and you're never running solo. So that's one thing that I found is very, helpful, getting through your day to day, and, help finishing the project. And when it's done, you have your team to celebrate with. So that's also, very fortunate and very cool. How I got here, with, education wise, I know you guys are, looking at what schools you want to go to, what kind of careers you want to start. One thing about being in construction management is that it basically sets you up for this position. It sets you up for the management roles. So at school, you take classes on estimating, you take classes on, building products, you take classes on, we even took architectural classes, so we know a little bit about that. So being in construction, you learn so much, and technology is always changing. So I think one thing about being, coming from school and then getting into the field, it's not necessarily, you never stop learning. So it's kind of like you're never done with school, except that you're getting paid for it now instead of paying for it. So that's always a bonus. Construction management, as I said, basically sets you up for the role. And that's where, if you're worried about getting a job out of college and you think, construction might be something for you, this is a definite way to go. I think when I graduated my class, there were 99% of us had jobs before our senior year. And that 2%, I think they just didn't register that they had jobs. It's a great industry to be in. The amount of people that you meet through your industry, it seems big and it seems broader, and things you'll learn, you'll never stop learning. But the people you'll meet over and over again. It's kind of like they say, it's a small world, it's a small industry. To be a good project engineer, you really just have to work hard, be open to new ideas, be able to adapt, and ask questions. I think one thing that really helped me in my career where I'm at is figuring out that it's okay to not know things. And if you don't know, you ask the question and get it explained, and then and you always have one more tool to put, what we call it, your toolbox of life. So every skill you make, everything you learn, you put that in, and it just makes you an all around better person. And I think this is something, whether or not you want to be in construction, or you want to go be a painter, or an accountant, this is the kind of ideal that will help in whatever aspect your life takes you. Other things that help with construction, I think it was, as technology grows, I'm sure you're all very computer savvy, or that definitely helps, in the job set. We do a lot of plan reading, and, things used to be all pen and paper. Now it's all on the computer. So as I said, there's multiple ways to go. We have a BIM process, or that's a building information modeling. Essentially, we take these plans and turn them 3D, and it's essentially is like a little video game. So that being able to model it in 3D, we're able to find problems before we build them, and before they cost a lot more money than they would if we don't catch them in front. I think that's part of what I like about being in this industry, is being able to solve problems, knowing that being able to catch things before they happen. And, it's always kind of like a game, something to enjoy, knowing that you overcome certain boundaries, or able to, push past things, or, work with your team to figure out, good solutions. I think one thing that is also great is that there's always room for improvement. There's always room to move up. So me being a project engineer, they say, generally you're a project engineer for 4 to 6 years, and before you get promoted to a project management. Well, what's great about being a project engineer is you're not stuck to doing one thing. So within project management or general contracting as a whole, there's the field side, and then the office side. So the field side consists of, like, say, superintendents, foremen, people who run the day-to-day aspects of projects, where on the project management side, there's the project engineer and project managers or assistant project managers who help define and facilitate the budget and make sure that answers are being processed in a sufficient way. And we're talking to the architect and owner, making sure that what is being built is what they want. And they all have, pluses or minuses to their jobs, as anything does. But where I started, I still have the opportunity to go to the field side and train to be a superintendent when this project starts, or I can go in the office side and train to be a project manager. I think that's another thing that I really like is I can definitely, there's many pathways that I can take, and the companies that I work for support me in any way I want to do that, because, once they see that you're a good employee or you're, hard workers, they're willing to, take the steps to make you happy as well. So one thing that, goes to show, if I wanted to be a field side, I would, work with my hands more. There's a lot more physical work being in the field. Sometimes you have to throw tool bags on and fix some things in a pinch. Other times, you're just coordinating safety equipment to make sure everyone's safe in the field. Everybody has their hard hat, safety gear on, and all of those things are taken care of. And it depends on your preference of what you like to do. There's a lot of ways to go in this industry. If you want to specialize in certain aspects, you can work for subcontractors. If you really like electrical work, go working for an electrician and focus on one thing is great. Or if you like being a framer or any aspect of the job, you can work for them. What is great about being for a general contractor is that we touch so many different scopes that we get to learn about everything from painting or from the project and the process, that being when we start to dig a hole to lay our first foundations of concrete, all the way to when we're putting windows and painting walls. There's just so much involved that it's fascinating, the amount of people you meet and the amount of, different scopes and technology that, you get to touch and coordinate and learn about that, you start to look at things a different way, which is, it's kind of cool, starting to become one of those, professionals and being part of the industry.
I have a question. So you talked about, I'm just going to ask you a question in case unless you have something else you want to say. So you talked about the beginning, the early phase where here's a question. What have you found the most valuable when working in a team? There you go. That's an actual question from a real, student.
Yeah. What I found most valuable with working in a team is knowing, there's a sense of security, knowing that, your team has your back, knowing that you also have people that you can rely on to help, answer questions, or when you're in a sticky situation, or, when you flat out, as I said, if you don't know, working in a team, when you're pulling multiple brains, multiple heads together, you get a much wider group, a vast blank of knowledge and experience to help, inform you to make the right decision. I think working with the team, you get that sense of camaraderie. So it's not necessarily just being head down 8 hours a day, working what you want. You come in and you work with people. And, it's great about when you're working on projects, a project may last 6 months, it may last 2 years. But once that's over, you work with a different team and you get to meet new people. So it's great to have that sense of change, to always keep things, moving and going. It's really, I don't know, I think it's really great.
Do you find that you intersect with people that you've met on other projects on different ones? Like you have some overlap with people that you work for, or is it all new team every time?
No, definitely. Internally, so sometimes you'll work with a project manager, or like when I started, um, when I first got out of school, you basically have a mentor. So you follow them around maybe on a couple projects, or, depending on how well the team works together, they'll, HR, or, the higher ups who create these project teams will find, oh, these guys who are together are very successful. So we'll try to keep them together on the next one, or they'll mix and match and shuffle their, I guess, cards, you would say, to create the best project team. So there could be a lot of overlap, and it also counts for availability. If we're both on different projects, or on our second project, there might not be enough room or it might not be enough time available for us to meet on the third project. But things change and they move people around, and it's part of it. But generally, they like to keep good people who work with other good people. So
Yeah. So this project that you're on now, this big building or very tall building, how long do you think that'll take to till it's done and you can say, I worked on that? Like, you're walking by it.
yeah, so this one is it's going to be the largest one I've ever worked on, and it's about 27 months, so a little over 2 years. I've worked on it for the last year, just in pre-cron, but COVID also slowed it down, and everything got pushed around a little bit. But we're breaking ground in July, so that's when we close it off and we start taking the old building down and building our new building. But a little over 2 years working on that project. And a lot of things change as over those 2 years. So there's other projects, like we also do tenant improvement projects. So those are short, quick, a couple months and you're done and you're on to the next one. And what those involve is, say like Facebook or Google are moving into a new building, and they want to redo their interior to make it, Facebook worthy. So we'll go in and we'll, take the walls out, make a new layout and paint them, and, basically refurbish that. And those are quick and easy. And then, you can move on to the next one.
Yeah. Okay. So another question I have, because I've done this similar type of thing on like software projects, but so you say you spend a lot of time doing estimates. How do they, do you have like certain tools that you use to estimate all the different pieces of it that they teach you like in school, and how accurate are you?
Yeah. My estimates are very accurate. So yeah, we work with different programs and technologies that we use for our estimates, and there's a lot of different ones in the industry. The one that my company works is called this on-screen takeoff. So essentially, it's I call it's a glorified coloring. So I take these plans and I fill them out with all these different colors, but they all mean something. I take these areas and linear feet, and then we plug them into our we call it the grand estimate, and then we basically take the quantity of what we think is going to be on the drawings and then apply a price to it that's going to basically give us what it's going to cost to get that piece of work in. So say it's like flooring, I'll have a plan and I'll color up the whole plan and say there's 400 square feet of, rubber flooring. We'll say that's $6 a square foot. And then now we have one piece of the puzzle, and there's a lot of pieces of the puzzle.
Yeah, I
That's
bet.
just an easy one.
Amazing puzzle. So that's kind of like a video game too. I mean, a similar like, you know, marking things up and breaking it into pieces
Oh
and
yeah, yeah. And it's one thing about doing estimating, we also we call it an art. So everybody does it just a little bit differently. But you learn to do it in different ways and how other people prefer it. So it's cool to kind of make your own and being able to justify the reasons that you did it.
that sounds really fun actually to me, that whole coloring part. Sounds very artistic. I like art, so that's cool.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's cool. Estimating is maybe not. I'm here uh, to help. I'm training right now as estimating, so it's one piece of the puzzle that they or the industry that they're. Um, so by the time I become a project manager, I'll have dipped my toes in all aspects of what it takes to run this kind of business. And so when it comes time to relate to the current estimate we're doing, or when I have to pick up another one, I'll know why it's built and what it all means.
Yeah. Okay, next question. Are there a lot of unless someone else wants to ask a question. Oh, she has to go. Okay, so now it's just us. So I'll just ask all the questions I want. Um,
All right.
are there a lot of job opportunities? I mean, do you see a lot of job postings for project engineers and whatever project? I mean, are there a lot of jobs out
Oh
there?
yeah. Oh, there's a ton of jobs out. I mean, when I was in school, and this was only just a few years ago, I that I could throw a rock and I could get a job.
Wow.
Basically, when I was at school, they had 20, 30, 37 different contractors come to school and offer us, jobs for interviews. And I mean, as long as there's buildings being built and buildings being knocked down, they need more people like me. So um, once you get your education and you're going through, it's hard not to get a job.
Yeah. So what's the pay like coming out of college? Just like now, if you guys are hiring somebody right out of school now.
So the average, I would say, is between starting probably around 70 coming out.
Wow. That sounds good. I mean,
Yeah,
that's actually good.
and it depends on what company you work for versus in where you're at. Like when I started, I didn't start for a giant contractor.
Right.
They have some of them who are nationwide, some of them who even go overseas and build. So I went with the local one in Seattle who, only works in the city, where there's opportunities to move, and, I think those bigger ones pay more, but I wanted to stay local. And I mean, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah. Do you get opportunities to get raises very often? I mean, do they review you every year or how does that work?
Yeah, we do, year-end reviews. And I mean, they generally give you a pay raise. I've gotten a pay raise every year
Oh,
since I've been out. So I mean, I'm not complaining. Um, and, once you get promoted, of course, you get raises, and there's always time to, if you feel like you're in a position that you deserve more, they're always open to talk and discuss.
yeah. Well, that's good. Also, probably it
Yeah.
doesn't hurt that there are tons of jobs out there and they want to keep you. If you're doing a good job, they're probably going to want to keep you. And so they're going
Oh, exactly.
to give you more money. It's kind of like, oh, people, the stores who always have the ads for this or that or whatever, and they're always trying to match the car dealerships, match this deal or match that.
Oh, yeah.
So that,
No, and that coaching, I guess you could call it's real. I mean, I've had 3 people contact me this last year to move from here, and I said I want to stay at one company for a little longer before I have to move again.
yeah. Right.
But I mean, it's hard. It's enticing.
Yep, I bet. Huh. I like what you said about it's cool to walk down the street in Seattle and look at a building that you made. That I bet that's really satisfying too. That's a neat
Yeah,
part of your job.
yeah, no, it really is. And like I only have one under my belt because I haven't been in this very long. I mean, I have a couple of ones that I worked on in my internship. Um, that's cool. I mean, it's honestly on my drive home. I passed two of the buildings that I worked on, and it's cool. It kind of takes you back, um, and you're also able to brag about it to your friends.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just think back on my early career, my first 15 years of my career, and to think I worked on tons of projects and not very many of them at all even got completed for one thing. And it's not like I
Oh
could
yeah,
take that out and show anybody, oh, look, I did this. It's neat that you get to have such a sense of accomplishment in this job, you know?
yeah. I mean, that's one of the big reasons that like I really came this way to be able to. I take it back to like when I was, mowing lawns in high school, be able to turn around and take this ugly piece of grass and turn it into something, worth looking at. It's
Yeah.
it's a different scale, but
Yeah.
it's a lot more work, but same thing.
Yep. All right. Well, let's see. Are there anything you want to say to these high school kids who might be wondering why they would want to go into this? I mean, other than you have done a great job, can I just say, of saying why you like it. What like if they don't like I have a lot of kids that just don't know what they want to do. Is it really do you work a lot of hours, I guess, is what do you work a lot of hours? Is it really
Oh,
busy? Are your days boring? Are they exciting? What
it comes in flows, which is also great about it because when you're approaching a deadline, yeah, you might be working a lot of hours, but you work hard when you have to, and then you take it easy when you can. So it's really like it's a roller coaster that keeps it exciting. Like there's days where I'll be in, you could sometimes do 10 hours a day, or sometimes you have to come in on Saturdays, but then there's other days where it's also great being a part of salary that you can just take off and it's okay. And our company, well, your team and everybody recognizes hard work, so it's not an issue if you want to take some days off and have a vacation,
mm-hmm.
in the summer when the time comes, as long as you get the work done.
That's right. Okay, so I will let you say your one last thing and then we'll just stop the recording. And we
Yeah,
can just chat. Anything else you want to say to these?
sure.
It's like, who would you reach out to? Like, say, kids who like blah 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 should get into this.
Well, I mean, if you like working with your hands, if you like being active and out there, doing stuff, if you like that sense of accomplishment. I know when I was in high school, I always liked, building stuff. I worked on a farm. I like building porches and working on cars and being active and being out there. If that's something that you enjoy, and you don't want to just sit behind a desk all day, this is a great thing to do. It's a great place to be, and you learn so much if you're curious about any of that, and you always want to
Same
broaden your horizons. Or
yeah, same with any engineering. You're going to be learning all the time. In engineering, kind
yeah,
of just to learn, like you're constantly learning new things. So
exactly. And that's what's cool about it. There's never a dull day, really.
all right. Well, thank you, Jim. Don't leave. I'm just going to stop the recording here. Jake, sorry. Woo, thank you,
Jake.
Jake.